hot start in the hole here, giving Luminosity 3 points to start off this short summer split. Team Allegiance is in that first pick position, and they're going to ban away the Osiris right away. Picked it for Cyclone Spin last game. It did well in the early game, and he took a lot of cooldowns in the late game, but didn't really have that same effectiveness that he probably wanted.
And if you're going to first pick Osiris and you execute a strategy to be that aggressive in the solo lane, why not keep extending it in the solo lane? You know, look for those invades. Why are you going for these gold furies whenever it's still a 5-on-5 before you find the picks? And Allegiance needs to be able to clean up these small little mid-game objectives to translate off of their early game leads.
Terra going to be taken away from Jeff Hinla. Played it beautifully in the last game. I don't even know if he used his own purification beads in that one. I mean, he got them, but I think that was just enough to make Allegiance not want to focus him out. But that leaves open Bologna here for Luminosity. And this Camazotz that was banned away in game one, Allegiance and Luminosity clearly, Luminosity's clearly been working on this in the background. Probably in the jungle with that Bologna, you'd expect that's going to be going to Mask.
Maybe Luminosity and Monkey Madness are scrim partners, recognizing just how effective Camazotz could be in that jungle role. Homie F.A. playing that god earlier on today, but to respond, Cirquet still being locked in for week, and Allegiance recognizing just how powerful Terra was for Jeff Hinla, wanting that for themselves, and the Hercules here to counteract the Bologna.
But again, these are three gods that get shut down pretty hard by a Cupid.
Still a 5-on-5 before you find the picks. And Allegiance needs to be able to clean up these small little mid-game objectives to translate off of their early game leads.
Terra going to be taken away from Jeff Hinla. Played it beautifully in the last game. I don't even know if he used his own purification beads in that one. I mean, he got them, but I think that was just enough to make Allegiance not want to focus him out. But that leaves open Bologna here for Luminosity. And this Camazotz that was banned away in game one, Allegiance and Luminosity clearly, Luminosity's clearly been working on this in the background. Probably in the jungle with that Bologna, you'd expect that's going to be going to Mask.
Maybe Luminosity and Monkey Madness are scrim partners, recognizing just how effective Camazotz could be in that jungle role. Homie F.A. playing that god earlier on today, but to respond, Cirquet still being locked in for week, and Allegiance recognizing just how powerful Terra was for Jeff Hinla, wanting that for themselves, and the Hercules here to counteract the Bologna.
But again, these are three gods that get shut down pretty hard by a Cupid ultimate. Barracuda played it beautifully in game one, and Luminosity don't allow it to get banned away in here in game two, selecting it before that second ban phase. Medusa going to be the ban for Luminosity, one of Ocean's signature characters, and immediately Allegiance turned towards the support, banning away the Khepri.
I like these bans from Luminosity, the Medusa and the Hui. These are two great team fighting hunters with their ultimates between the Petrify and the Suns. Very comfortable is Luminosity to try to allow the ROM selection. Does do a great job in the 1v1 boxing once that steroid is maxed out, but teamfight presence alone, you're looking to just use your ultimate from a distance off of the initiation from Circuit.
Geb going to be the pick there for Jeff Hinla. Now Allegiance, they've got to worry about who's going mid and who's going to the Hunter role. Carnados left open despite all these bans. Pretty good Hunter with a team fighting ultimate here for Oceans, left open, and he's going to take it. And it's going to be the Isis. So we saw Sheikah play this earlier on today, had some success early, not so much in the mid to late. Kind of like what Allegiance just did, though. Allegiance, I mean, that game was close even past the 25-minute mark.
Sure. And this is another great early game potential presence from Allegiance, but instead of probably going in that solo lane with the Circuit Osiris compared to first game, it's probably going to be the Circuit Isis focus for Allegiance in this second game.
Well, if Bats can go on that late game, Scylla again trying to be that carry that Luminosity wants him to be in that mid lane. Let's get right into it. Game number 2 between Luminosity and Team Allegiance as ALG look to even up the series and find the split here in our final set of the day. And I don't know, why are we seeing Camazotz now, Toli? What has changed with this character? Because he went from picked all the time in solo to not picked at all to now being played, twice in 4 sets today.
I think it's just his passive, honestly. With how much action there's been in the first game from Allegiance and Luminosity, there's going to be so many puddles on the ground to be able to sustain Mask in that jungle. You can easily get a lot of health return, come back into a team fight 5 to 10 seconds later, either by clearing a jungle camp with Bombus Mask or by sitting in a puddle that somebody left after they died earlier on.
Quite a bit of early game pressure on the right-hand side of the map from Luminosity's early draft, though Cyclone Spin playing this Hercules can make life difficult for Scary D on that bludgeon. Interested to see exactly what Scary's going to level. Like the decision there from Cyclone to get the 2 to group it up, but now Weekend's in a lot of trouble, forced into the Purification Beads to get away from the slow from Mask. It's going to be LG who get the better end of that clear. Shouts to double cleave auto attack characters between the Camazotz and the Bologna.
Absolutely. This time, Allegiance not getting the better end of it in that solo lane, but Baskin keeping Med Yankee off of the speed buff. As a result, though, he's only level 1. Not something you necessarily want to be in a position for as a Scylla that's trying to get to the late game as soon as possible.
I like that decision from Met Yankee to clear the wave all by himself, understanding how much more pressure he has in mid, and then just goes and takes the minis off of the enemy speed buff to make sure that he hits level 2 as quickly as possible. Weekend and Cyclone Spin more worried about the fire elementals than Weekend's own speed buff. Now Cyclone Spin knows this is happening, but this buff already low enough, and that's going to go down. Cyclone in some trouble here, Toli. Mask hits the slow, and it's going to allow him to catch up. Level 3, Bludgeon isn't even needed, and Mask going to claim the first blood onto Cyclone Spin. Baskin forcing the Purification Beads in the mid lane, because Weekend went there and put some pressure onto him, but still, LG end up the victors in that little skirmish.
There's always a ripple effect. Despite getting a slight advantage in that solo lane, they're struggling behind slightly in the mid lane. Luminosity, Baskin having to use those Purification Beads just to stay alive in a 1v2 situation, but as a former solo laner for Baskin, he's not very unfamiliar being left alone, so he's trying to just survive as long as possible, and he's been making a great transition to go from these tanky warriors slash guardians to these more glass cannon squishy mages.
Mask in trouble in the mid lane. The beads are good for the moment, but I don't think it's going to be enough, and it will not. That wing gust from Met Yankee secures the first kill for Allegiance. Good silence there out of Met Yankee. It immediately turns it around onto Baskin, who doesn't have the Purification Beads. Scary D in the middle of 3. Cyclone Spin only level 3 as Weekend goes forward, finds the taunt onto Baskin, but doesn't have enough for the Death Bane, so Baskin to be able to get out A-OK. Allegiance there a little bit more fight-minded than objective-minded, and that's been the difference in this set thus far for me, is that LG always has their minds on why are we fighting here, what are we going to get for it afterwards, whereas ALG is the typical we're just fighting because you're in front of us and we don't like that about you.
The problem with Camazotz in the jungle, which is why we saw Mass die earlier on, was the jump is just so short. It's not an actual escape. It's more of a small immunity frame usage to be able to avoid 1 or 2 abilities, potentially get the sustain off of landing on several targets. And up until Mask hits level 5 on his Camazotz, that's going to be his one true escape, being able to just swoop on in or out of danger.
Doesn't have Boots 3 quite yet. Only Boots 2 after falling there, as Neoma gets both mid camps away from Mask. Good play there out of the support, denying the jungler any additional farm. Weekend still only level 4. Again, going back to that extended engagement by the enemy speed slash blue. That's a lot of time that's spent not worrying about your own wave and trying to get kills, and that's why we see Weekend still sitting at level 4.
It could easily transition into that mid game, which is why we can struggle sometimes at those phases, and I loved what Neuromod did around that corner, trying to strip away some of these jungle camps from Mask. Now, had the Terra player showed himself instantly, then Mask would hold on to his abilities for the secure, but instead, not seeing anybody right off the bat, he invests his abilities towards that camp, which gives the secure option for Neuroma.
Neoma and Oceans on this left-hand side, the new duo lane for Allegiance, and Neoma is a guy that I think really came out of nowhere for a lot of viewers and really impressed many at the Masters LAN. So Weekend gets zoned away from the solo wave by Cyclone Spin, courtesy of that excavate. But Neoma is a guy who's been around the Challenger Cup scene for a long time, and if you're not super in tune with that scene, you may not know his name. But he certainly elevated his play past that. Even those that are familiar with him are used to seeing from him. And I'm really excited to seeing what he can do here in the Pro League on a different roster than that, Skeleton, Kiki, Oxygen Supremacy lineup.
Going off into a huge tear, 7-2 run at that Gauntlet LAN, making huge splash effect in against a lot of these SPL teams. They actually shut down Allegiance 0-2. That was the third opponent that they had to face, and before that was Noble Esports that they took out 2-0, Flashpoint 2-0, even taking a game away from Memory of Gabe.
That's right. Yeah, Allegiance was one of the teams that fell to that run by Oxygen Supremacy. Oracle's going to be split. Allegiance got one before they realized they had to run away from the 4-man grouping coming out of Luminosity. This team composition for Allegiance, do you think it translates as well as Luminosity's does into the late game?
I think Allegiance's team composition in the late game is not enough compared to Luminosity. You having Baskin play the Scylla. If he finds one execute on the Alma Monster, that's just going to be a guaranteed team fight win in Luminosity's favor. Not to mention this Isis here could potentially be a very easy target. If we're looking at some of the peel engagements here, you're relying on probably Niruma to stay in that backline, because knowing Cyclone Spin and Weaken, they want to be the ones to aggress in the enemy backline.
Always. That's exactly what they like to do and why they've worked so well together for so long, as they have similar play styles come that team fighting phase. And the fact that Weaken likes to spend a lot of time with Cyclone in the laning phase as well on that right side of the map. But for now, Weaken's on the left, trying to secure these left side mid-harpies, as Neilma did last time they spawned over top of Mask. Jeff gonna walk in and eat that stun coming out of the Terra, and Neilma just laying down that obelisk as a zoning mechanism to ensure those mid camps go Allegiance's way.
Playing very safe. Luminosity not wanting to get into a team fight quite yet, despite probably having more control in that small little space with the Cataclysm. You're having the Crush coming out of Scylla. The damage potential just to maybe even blow up Terra could be there, and that could have found an execute reset onto Baskin's Alma Monster, but playing very safe. They're not going to take that risk over a very small amount of gold.
So last time we saw Geb today, it was played by Trixtank, and he basically won his team the game with his Blink Cataclysms. Sure. This time around, we see Jeff Hinla go for Shell instead of the Blink. How much harder is it to find the initiations as Geb without that Blink?
I mean, we saw it right there. He was zoned away by the wall. If that was Trixtank, he would just blink right onto those three players unexpectedly, no care in the world. And it's a different mindset between Trixtank and Jeff Hilla. We're seeing the low nose mask as well from Jeff, but not going to invest into the Traveler shoes, getting more defenses with those reinforced Greaves instead.
Good poke on the Met Yankee. That's what Camazotz does best. Just walks into your lane, throws the one, throws the two, walks away. That's the entire character.
There goes half of your health if you're at mid-mage, maybe even more depending on what level that Camazotz is and how itemized he is in the game. Scary D looking to invade the blue buff on the right-hand side and successfully does so. Cyclone Spin not getting the better end of this trade.
Scary was definitely kept down in game number 1. Took an early 3 deaths, had a lot of trouble during that laning phase. This time is basically the exact opposite. He's the one in control on this side, making Cyclone Spin tank up all those minions, but knows he doesn't have a whole lot of kill potential, at least not yet. So he uses the ultimate, gets Cyclone low, but not low enough, so that will force Cyclone to use his teleport to get back to lane in time. I love this play by Scary. He's actually holding Cyclone in lane there, making it so that he can't back, so that he can't teleport back in time to defend that speed buff invade that went successfully Luminosity's way. Decent damage on a Met Yankee, but he returns some of it on his own. Weaken gonna jump in, but Baskin jumps out in response, and Met Yankee's the one holding all that damage without a lot of recourse.
Baskin's just so aware of his surroundings every single time. Not only was he poking out Met Yankee so heavily, he also managed to barely escape from the initiation from Weaken on the Circuit, just all over the place. One of the highest mechanically gifted players, I would say, and a lot of players in the SPL have been giving this player a lot of praise since he joined up former Cloud9.
That's right. I mean, this is a kid who basically stormed onto the scene, came out of nowhere, didn't play in the SPL Season 1, joined Season 2 with Denial, and then all of a sudden, a couple months later, he's on the defending world champions team, replacing Omega, and his the hype around him has never stopped ever since, basically. Baskin has to use his purification beads, as Jeff Hinla had him with the shield, but I don't know if Baskin knew he was ready for it. Nice jump there by Mask. As you mentioned, using that leap, not necessarily as an escape, but as a disjoint to get away from that driving strike coming out of Cyclone Spin.
Cyclone Spin taking a lot of damage. Not something you want to do when your teleport's on cooldown and your opponent's isn't, but Gold Fury being started by Allegiance. They pop the girl, they pop the circle of protection.
Frenzy's used, and that's gonna go the way of Allegiance. Jeff Hinla's low, but a big ultimate out of Barracuda forces everybody back. Barra trusted his team was gonna pick up Neil Ma, but I don't know if they will cancel that. Baskin does. 2 kills now for Luminosity. Scary teleported into the back and got out the purification from Oceans there, but The objective goes Allegiance's way. Good objective secure by Met Yankee.
And the timing of this allows Luminosity to transfer all their attention towards this Portal Demon. The Gold Fear going down shortly before the 10-minute mark. Spirit Ball from a distance, not able to secure it. Scary D trying to dive that tier 1 mid tower. Eagles Rally not available, so he can't find the kill. But despite not finding the kill, Met Yankee's gonna have to back in because ALG gets the Gold Fury, but they lose Niroma. They get weakened very low, and he had to back. Oceans had to back as well, and they missed out on a lot of farm.
I loved that. That was basically a game of chicken around that Gold Fury. Met Yankee holding the circle of protection, Baskin holding the I'm a Monster. Got to give credits to Allegiance's mid laner, as well as Jeff Hindla. Not many people will just roll out into a fully charged Ice Assault. That's a Jeff Hindla move right there. And Allegiance make good on their objective secure, but LG get the kill and the Portal Demon afterwards to make sure that gold lead doesn't start to swing too heavily in Allegiance's favor.
Scary D still invading that blue buff on the right-hand side for the second time that we've seen recently, but now Niroma is in position, forced to use Eagles Rally, but everyone else from Luminosity was right around the corner. Maybe a little too preemptive, worried the fact that it was not only Niroma there, but potentially weaken around the corner as well.
And there isn't any CDR on that Runeforged Hammer, so normally we see Bolognas use their ultimate pretty freely because they get a Breastplate of Valor and they're not really worried about it, but with Runeforged, it means that cooldown is going to be a little bit longer, an offensive option coming out of Scary D. Barracuda pushed back a little bit on this left-hand side, but has those hearts, as you mentioned, so not too impactful, this poke put into him by Oceans.
Barracuda is one of these players that's been going through a lot of different phases in his SPL history. He's been known to be a relatively passive player, and then Season 3, he turned it up and be very aggressive.
Oceans is in trouble, doesn't have any purification beads, and now he's on the run. Mask chasing him down, but he doesn't quite find the kill. The Terra's Blessing gives Oceans the heal that saves his life. Met Yankee trying to handle Scary D in the mid lane. Might actually turn it around on him. One more is going to do it. The auto attack will help it out, and the archers, but now he's in trouble. Jukes the I'm a Monster, and Baskin's picked up and pulled back, but the crush is on the mark. Baskin does make Met Yankee pay for knocking down the LG solo laner 1 for 1 in favor of who, Tolly?
Honestly, neither. They're both the same exact respawn timer here as Met Yankee's coming back for Scary D, forced to go into the purification beads. Baskin having to use that one. I'm a Monster was slightly off the mark, and if that one hit and reset, then that could have easily been Luminosity's favor to not only go for a 1 for 1, but they would have gotten more than just that one specific kill. Scary D also didn't have his ultimate available at the time that he started engaging against Met Yankee in that mid lane. A little lapse of judgment, not truly respecting the damage potential from this Isis.
Yeah, Met's gone for that Bancroft's Talon once more, and once Met got low there from Scary D, it was just adding to the power that his Wing Gust was putting into Scary. Scary may lose his tower here, but the Disarm's going to save it for the moment. But that tower is basically gone as soon as Cyclone Spin decides he wants it gone.
Still getting his own blue buff, electing to try to get that more farm instead of keeping his tower alive. Could potentially cost him later down the road, but instead still finding ways to extend his advantage. He's going to hit level 14 first. He's still doing a good job extending that one death out of Cyclone Spin by diving that tier 1 tower, constantly looking for trades because that bludgeon will outweigh 1 to 2 tower shots at this point.
Barracuda again going for the Fatalis, third item, sitting on that second tier because it takes just so long now to finish off that item, and really valuing that mobility that item brings to him.
Absolutely. Still more aggression, though, from Scary D. He's just unrelenting in the solo lane. Finally, Niroma and Weaken. Not only those two, but Met Yankee making the rotation. They're tired of Scary D's shenanigans, stripping away so many blue buffs from Cyclone Spin.
This game, for me, and this set in general, has been... I've been very impressed with Baskin's play. And I think that's key to Luminosity's success moving forward, not only in the summer split, but in Season 4 in general, as Mask forced to use his ultimate courtesy of the CC chain coming out of Neil Ma. But Baskin, during the spring split, looked very good at times. It was almost always on Poseidon. A little bit of Thoth sprinkled in there as well, even a Ra from time to time, if I remember correctly. But I think it's very important that Baskin expands his God pool during the summer split and shows that he can be a top-tier mid laner as he finds the route onto Neil Ma. Jeff Hindla tossed back, courtesy of that last breath. Barracuda's made the rotation, forces the purification beads out from Weaken, and Luminosity happy to reset after that one. Got a couple sets of, we got one set of purification beads out of Weekend, but a couple ultimates from the side of Allegiance. But it's ALG, the ones who want to aggress here onto the Gold Fury because of how low Jeff Hindla is. And Met Yankee having that ultimate still ready to go and secure, but Scary D comes around the back. Frenzy popped as the Gold Fury gets even lower. Baskin's gonna get the reset with the I'm a Monster. Allegiance get the Gold Fury, but now LG's trying to take the fight. Cyclone Spin used the Aegis there, I believe, to get him out of danger from that I'm a Monster, but I don't know if it's gonna be enough. Driving Strike creates some distance, and he's gonna be able to get out of there as LG get one kill, but again, lose the Gold Fury.
But this time, the respawn timer's a little longer, and without Weekend for another 12 seconds, it's gonna be Luminosity grouped up. The teleport, though, from Cyclone Spin does take into effect, allowing the safety of that Tier 1 dual lane tower, but Tier 1 mid could be a different option, but instead going for the Portal Demon, trying to capitalize on that 750 gold.
Only Met Yankee is even close to this Portal Demon for the time being, but I don't know if Luminosity know that. They do have some wards on that bottom right-hand side and right on top of that speed buff. Weekend just farming up those back Harpies. Met Yankee, yeah, the only one who even has a chance of getting here in time. Cyclone Spin has teleported in, but it's still not going to be enough as Luminosity, again, Allegiance to get the Gold Fury. Luminosity, they take the Portal Demon.
Keeping it very even and close. Luminosity, they're such a seasoned veteran team that they know what they can't do necessarily, and off of that, they always know the small loopholes created by the enemy team. Masto caught in a very bad spot, having to get retreated on the shield, though, from Chef Hindla, keeping his jungler alive.
Barra and Baskin pop out of the portal and drop the ultimate onto Weekend there, who didn't have his purification beads. Barra a little late with his own, and now he's in some trouble. Cyclone chasing him down. Scary D is here, finds two with that Eagles rally, and Barra's still alive thanks to Jeff's Geb shield. Scary still in that front line, but gets shredded pretty heavily from the damage from Met Yankee. Mask has returned, no ultimate available to him. He used it to get out of danger last time around, but Baskin is on the offensive. Can't find the root nor the crush, but Baskin has an I'm a Monster available if he wants to try and chase this down. Cyclone's been so healthy, though, that's enough front line to keep Luminosity at bay.
Utilizing that Monolith for that extra sustain. Unfortunately, Baskin did miss those two abilities, which would have been key towards keeping Niroma crippled and guaranteeing a lot of additional damage. That Crush, once it's maxed out, negates a lot of protection, so the further up damage would have just amplified by everybody else. Luminosity, they still get a better end of trade there. The shields from Jeff Hindla was clutch there. Not only did he save Mask's life there, which also bought time for everyone else from Luminosity to take that portal to find the cleanup kill, but he keeps his Hunter alive at the end of that engagement.
Mask has to use his Blink to get away from Weekend. Weekend has not gone for Blink. He instead has gone for Sunder. Last time Mask went for Sunder, and I believe Weekend went for Blink.
That's true.
So a little bit of a switch up there between the two junglers. Mask did go for the Shifter shield. Seems to be a fan of that item after receiving its recent buffs. Now it's there's a little bit less base stat on the item, but you get more benefit for being healthy and more protection for being weak instead of just having a little bit of everything all the time.
And which is why we're seeing probably Camosauce played a little bit more frequently. The scaling off of the poke damage just is augmented with this new addition towards Shifter Shield. Getting that 70 physical power instead of that 60 gets you more poke potentially, getting more kills.
But you don't have a lot of penetration if you go for that Shifter Shield second item, and that's where Mask is headed next, building into that heavy mace tree. Weekend went for penetration right off the bat with the Jotun's Wrath once more, and just like he did in the last game, it looks like it's going to be a Rune-Forged Hammer right after that. So the right side mid-Harpies are started up by Luminosity. Baskin put a little bit of poke, but Weekend's on the left-hand side and catches Barracuda's dash. Ocean's gonna put himself on the board. Big play there out of the jungler, sets that up for his Hunter.
Great timing from Weekend to gank, just barely able to avoid that one little ward right above the Gold Fury. The positioning and the path taken by this jungler, so fruitful here because this one respawn for 30 more seconds allows Allegiance to group up in the dual lane, and they might even go for tier 2 after this one.
Met Yankees here, as is Neil Ma. The rest of Luminosity makes their way towards that tier 2 tower. Scary D's got a choice to make though, because he doesn't know if Cyclone's gonna be pushing that solo side simultaneously with Allegiance on the left-hand side. A stun there from Neilma onto Jeff Hindla. As Mask jumps out of the way of that Spirit Ball. But Allegiance decide they don't want to take that Tier 2 tower, a little bit too risky. Instead, head towards the Gold Fury, which is due to respawn in 20 seconds.
It was all a diversion because we saw Cyclone Spin stripping away that speed buff. Now Mask is going to be less mobile for this upcoming Gold Fury attempt. Still, Cyclone Spin looking like he's chilling in the jungle. I thought he was going to go for the blue buff afterwards, but instead trying to just retreat and get ready for this gold.
Taunt on the Jeff Hinla, followed up by the Spirit Ball. Mask on that front side trying to put some poke, and Scary D's looking to engage. Can't find a home with that Eagles rally as Mask sustains up courtesy of the hearts from Barracuda. Baskin puts a good chunk of damage on the Weaken, but is returned by the Spirit Ball from Met Yankee. Cyclone's been teleported around the back and is trying to focus down Barracuda. Mask used that ultimate very early, tried to get out of the way of that Earthbreaker, but I don't think that was going to hit him either way.
Either way, the Purification Beads was up for Mask, so even if you do get pulled, you can use Purification Beads to prevent the push. Circle of Protection being used, third Gold Fury going the way of Allegiance.
And again, the Frenzy Circle of Protection is just too much. Big ultimate out of Oceans, catches 4 members, but Mask hits the Sunder, going deep. The I'm a Monster just barely misses on the Met Yankee, who turns it around. Scary D's going to finally knock him down, and he's still trying to chase down Oceans, but a good stun from Neilma stops the aggression for the time being. The rest of Luminosity is all trying to handle Cyclone Spin, and they're not doing a good job of it. He's still going in. Scary finally finds Oceans, but Cyclone has been handling everybody else. Scary still fighting. That taunt's gonna do it as Weaken answers back.
It's just a tale of the Soul Laners being so obnoxious, diving in the backline. Baskin doing a great job, juking out that driving strike. Cyclone Spin now in a lot of trouble, does have that Aegis Amulet available. Cyclone Spin such a smart player, picking up this relic, recognizing that late, no matter how defensively you build against a Scylla in the late game, if you get hit by that Crush I'm a Monster, you will die.
So he picks up the defensive relic, and then that allows him to build a little bit more offensively with that Shield of Regrowth. Give him some more CDR and give him that movement speed. Saw how well he could kite in that little corridor, even against Barracuda and Baskin, using that extra mobility whenever he pops that mitigate wounds.
Patience from Weaken in that team fight. He jumped over into that Gold Fury pit, diving that backline, using the Sunder, getting Barracuda out of that team fight very quickly and early on, allowing the rest of his teammates to really get a slight edge there. But Scary D diving the backline as well was just so dominant, despite, I would say, his lackluster performance this entire game. You know, baiting himself out in that melee lane to dying towards Met Yankee, missing out some Eagles rallies, unfortunately. He needs to make a bigger presence in this game.
Cyclone gonna eat some damage between Baskin and Mask, but nothing that mitigate wounds can't handle. You're right, Scary D has not looked particularly clean this game, but still sitting at 2-2-2, has got a lot of HP online now between the Runeforged Pestilence and Wingblade. Certainly make it difficult for Met Yankee to survive in these team fights. So Neilma eats a Root Crush combination. Cyclone still in the front line here. No one from Luminosity seems to really want to deal with him, despite the Pestilence out of Scary D and that Brawler's Beat Stick from Mask. Still don't feel confident. Blink from Mask onto Weaken to force him out of the engagement initially. Cyclone Spin tried to use that driving strike but couldn't find a home with it. Oceans is safe to just throw out auto attacks for the time being until Scary D looks for him with that Eagles Rally and Sunder combination. Oceans has to worry about that Fields of Love. He's going to get mezzed out, but a good circle of protection is there. I'm a Monster doesn't get the reset but allows Mask to pick up Neilma. Mask trying to handle Met Yankee, and Scary D does the same to Oceans, but now it's Oceans and Cyclone Spin trying to turn it around.
The shields from Jetfilla keeping Baskin alive from Weaken's ultimate. Jetfilla gets pulled and pushed into danger. Spirit Ball Wingus secures the kill. 1 for 1 thus far. Make that 3 for 1.
Weaken in the backside cleans up 2, and now Luminosity only have 2 members left, and they have to run away. The Portal Demon is done all in favor of Allegiance. What a play out of the jungler for Allegiance, cleaning up at the end of that team fight.
A great moment of brilliance coming out of Weaken. I was talking about his patience earlier on, still lingering around these corners, waiting for more opportunities, and not even done yet. Just poking out Scary D before his team goes for this Fire Giant.
And Met Yankee just now has that circle of protection. Frenzy isn't up for Neilma quite yet, but it's not gonna matter. Game 1, Allegiance was fighting when they didn't necessarily need to fight. They weren't getting the objectives whenever they were fighting. This game has been the complete opposite. Luminosity has still been looking for the objectives. They've still been trying to get Portal Demons whenever Allegiance does Gold Furies, but the last part of that's important is after Allegiance does the Gold Furies, I love this draft to just pick up the Frenzy, pick the Isis, and say, yeah, we're doing Gold Furies. Come and stop us. You can't. We've got too much damage and too much secure between the Frenzy and the Circle of Protection.
And there's also just too much control here between the Serket, the Isis, and the Hercules. Not to mention you have a Terra to be able to root you, to be able to stun you out. I love the composition from Allegiance just being well-oiled machine.
Cyclone, first one in underneath that tier 2 tower. Good damage onto Scary D off the stun from Neilma. But Weekend's gonna take a lot of damage as well, and he's just gonna pop. Barracuda's the one with the kill, and that gives Luminosity the confidence they need. 3-man Cataclysm coming out of Jeff Hidla. Neilma secured. The Wild Hunt comes through and turns 4 members into pigs, but not Baskin. He's still there, and he knocks down Neilma. Now Scary D doesn't give a damn about the tower, just keeps on going. Oceans makes him pay, but it's only Oceans and Cyclone Spin. And I don't know how much longer we'll be able to say Oceans is here. Good damage onto Baskin and onto Mask, and Ocean's actually gonna turn it around onto Mask. The shield actually may save Baskin in that scenario. Finally, someone kills Oceans. But Luminosity turn it around.
Cyclone Spin. Cyclone Spin is pushing the right-hand side. He's trying to get the Phoenix while the rest of Luminosity is going to go for the mid here. Can the damage from the Hercules? No, the enhance is not going to be enough. Baskin, being a smart player as he is, making this rotation to save his right side Phoenix.
Brutal right now if you're a Luminosity fan, as Weekend now might actually fall, stunned out, forcing the Purification Beads, and Barra is just going to be able to dash away. Weekend does so much for Allegiance. He has a great early game in game 1. They end up not winning that game, but this game gets turned on its head because of a great play out of Weekend to find the double kill, allow Allegiance to get a free Fire Giant. And then he just takes one step too far forward. Baskin makes the play. He hits the root. Barra's right there with the setup, and that's the first domino that falls that allows Luminosity to push down, not only defend their tier 2, but get the tier 1 mid tower, get the tier 2 mid tower, and get the mid Phoenix on top of 4 kills totally.
And it was just a small lapse of judgment from Weekend. He had the Purification Beads available before he died. He didn't truly respect the control or the poke damage that Luminosity had available to them. Obviously, Mask can fire off abilities from a distance. Baskin can cripple you. Jeff Hilla can knock you up, and that small little air hang time from the knockup is enough to guarantee more than 50% of your health pool if you're a squishy assassins such as Weekend Serket.
Allegiance are still in the lead though, totally. They're still up about 5,000 gold, about 5,000 experience. They've gotten 4 Gold Furies this game, and the Fire Giant. So they've still have that objective control. Mask is, still far behind Weekend in terms of levels, I believe. Yeah, still down 2 levels. But Baskin almost has Rod of Tahuti. Baskin is almost level 20. And that's when things start to get really scary.
Very scary. Late game Scylla. This is going to be very detrimental towards the positioning of Allegiance to make sure they're not all grouped up for the Roots, the Crushes, or the Yama Monsters. Nobody wants to be anywhere near those abilities once they start flying out.
Look at this build coming out of Oceans. He went for the Rage, the typical Rage, Boots, Ikaval, Xe, Rage. Then he sold Bluestone and got Poison Star, an item that we haven't seen since the first few weeks of Season 4 when everyone was building it. And now he's going for that Fatalis, that Poison Star, crit chance of course, but whenever he crits someone, they're going to be slowed and deal less damage for a little bit after that.
Even augmenting that with the Fatalis. Now, inside the Kurnos kit, nice little stun from Med Yankee on the Spirit Ball. No follow from Cyclone Spin quite yet. Still looking for those pull pushes. Gonna absorb a lot of abilities from a distance, and this is all this game is about, poking everyone out from a distance.
Look at the crits coming through on that Portal Demon, already falling low, but Jeff Hinla is in position. Cyclone down to about 2/3 HP, but that's still plenty for a Hercules. Blinking by Mask, but a Spectral Armor fears him away. Boulder comes out from Cyclone Spin, but it's not enough to knock anybody down. Portal Demon once again pulled by Allegiance, but it's just for a little bit of lifesteal off of Ocean's first ability. Cyclone Spin has to retreat after a big crush coming out of Baskin, and again, Allegiance start to look towards the objective.
3 ultimates used on the side of Luminosity. Only 2 for Allegiance, Circle Protection and I'm a Monster. These are your 2 abilities that you're looking for in this next little engagement as Luminosity looking to get this Portal Demon.
Neoma gonna find multiple with that root, but the Portal Demon secured by Allegiance. They did have to use that Circle of Protection, and Baskin finds the reset with I'm a Monster. Can't find the second one as Weekend uses that Deathbane to get away. So Luminosity pick off the support player for Team Allegiance. So we do have a quick pause here, but it's Allegiance who get the Portal Demon.
That's right. There's 40 seconds remaining for Neoma to respawn. Yeah. And this next upcoming Fire Giant is going to be the main focus for Luminosity. And the key factor here, despite all the Gold Furies, despite the Portal Demon and the earlier Fire Giant by Allegiance, the Phoenix. The first Phoenix of the game did fall as Luminosity secured their middle one, and there's more fire-emitting waves flooding down there. So ALG have to respect that, giving up more control towards Luminosity to get that Fire Giant for free.
Yeah, Baskin was able to find the reset in that last fight, but he's been on point with the initial I'm a Monsters, but hasn't really found a whole lot on the follow-up. And that's basically, if he is, that's all it's going to take for Luminosity to march down and knock down that middle Phoenix. We're in a quick pause between ALG and LG. We're 30+ minutes in. It's been a very tight set so far. And the objective control from ALG has just been phenomenal. I mean, multiple Portal Demons, the Fire Giant, what, 4 Gold Furies as well?
Yes.
Luminosity's been team fighting. You can make the argument a little bit better than Team Allegiance overall, but the objective control certainly has been going the way of Team Allegiance. But Luminosity, with Neoma down, decided to start up the Fire Giant. Jeff Hinla controlled, and all ultimates are available now as Jeff in trouble on that right-hand side. Cyclone Spin rooted in place, but a great Spirit Ball once more from Met Yankee is going to force LG back.
Now Mask getting caught by the poisons from Weekend. This time it's going to be a 5-on-4 as Nirama has about to respawn here. The mid of Phoenix, surprisingly enough, still going to stand as Cyclone Spin has made the rotation there. Not only that, there was a full fire minion wave under that Titan of Allegiance, chipping its health away by about 25%.
Fire Giant started here by Allegiance, only Barracuda for the time being. Scary D tried to teleport, but ALG killed the ward, and without that support or solo coming in to help, Barra can't really step up, can't lock down Weekend in that Fields of Love. That shouts to speed buff, and the Fire Giant goes down. All 5 members of Allegiance with that buff, the second of the game.
Everybody is praying to Weekend. Use your purification beads if you get stunned next siege. Don't put yourself out of position to get blown up. And as long as Weekend doesn't die the way he did that earlier engagement, ALG should be able to extend this goal lead that they have with their second Fire Giant and control some of their own Phoenixes.
Met Yankee's the one with the spectral armor. We saw it earlier when Mask blinked in and immediately got feared away. I wasn't sure who picked it up, but it was Met. So a cheap physical protection item that's more about making sure he doesn't get bludgeoned, basically. Doesn't get blinked on by Mask. But all it takes is one auto attack, basically, from Barracuda to pop that, and it's a very, very long cooldown.
That's true, but the chances of Met Yankee being in position to get in-handed by Barracuda, as long as Barracuda doesn't flank unexpectedly from behind, Met Yankee should always keep a long distance between himself and the opposing mid and Hunter. Just focus his attention on the solo and the support, and that one brief second of the spectral armor against Mask or Scary D is going to allow Med Yankee to start chain crowd controlling everybody with the stun, with the silence, and then you're going to have even more control from the rest of his teammates.
Met Yankee's had a really strong game so far, totally. 4-3-2 may not blow you away in terms of stat lines, but his objective control has been phenomenal. In the poke, just the long-range spirit balls that we've seen from him time and time again, and it's always in the same spot. He's on the other side of that right mid-harpy wall around Portal Demon, just throwing those out, but the accuracy has been really solid.
And Isis is known to be one of these early game gods, but the way Med Yankee has played her now is not looking like that. The Spirit Balls definitely hurt, even with these physical defense items such as the Spectral Armor.
Sure.
You're looking to just stay alive and be more utility-based, stripping away some of the magical protections with your silence to augment the rest of your damage from the Spirit Ball and from the Wind Gust.
And now he's got that Rod of Tahuti and that Circle of Protection. While great for securing objectives, can also be great to be used in the middle of the team fight. And whenever you already have Fire Giant and you're starting to siege, you can be a little bit more loose with that circle of protection and use it to turn around a team fight. Ready to get back into game here after another pause from Team Allegiance, but we're 33 minutes in. Luminosity in the lead in kills, but not really anywhere else. Down in gold, down in experience. The only thing that's going for LG right now is that mid Phoenix is still weakened from that previous push,
which could potentially leave a small hole for them to exploit later down the road. Maybe one of these players from Luminosity could actually ignore defending their towers or Phoenixes, loop around Allegiance and go for that middle Phoenix, despite not having any sort of backdoor protections or more minions rather to tank the Phoenix for them. Still, late game form, once you're level 20, no matter who you are, those in-hands are going to start chunking away at that Phoenix.
The problem is that even if Luminosity win a team fight and have the opportunity to go marching down that mid lane and knock down that Phoenix, they haven't taken down any side towers quite yet. So that Titan would be incredibly tanky, even 34 minutes in. Basically would need a near deicide in order to try and end the game in this position for Luminosity. But it's Allegiance who are on the front foot as they look to knock down the first LG Phoenix so far this game. Oceans and Met Yankee trying to put some damage on a Jeff Hinla, but he dodges out those skills. Baskin has gone for a purple pot. See him glowing blue there. It's a little bit, spent that 500 gold. Kept the Soul Stone, has not started to work on his 6th item quite yet. But basically when you've got, you know, 5 items, one of them's Ratatouille, another one's Obsidian Shard, you're good on Scylla for the most part.
Pretty comfortable, especially once he hits level 20 to get that last stack of his passive, getting even additional magical power, trying to confirm some of these kills to find the reset. Cyclone Spin for the 2nd time, trying to initiate around the Phoenix, and there goes the Terra's Blessing.
Neoma throws it out. Scary gonna take a lot of damage, but a good shield once more from Jeff Hinla. Frenzy's popping, a Cataclysm is good there. As Jeff gets very low, Oceans is gonna be able to find him. 2-man push from Cyclone Spin, puts Barra in a bad spot, and Weaken's gonna make him pay. Baskin finds the reset. I'm a monster, but can't find the next one after Met Yankee uses the Aegis. Oceans knocks down Baskin. Oceans knocks down Mask. Oceans has 7 kills. ALG have 15 in total, and they've only got 1 member to worry about as they push down LG's Titan. Allegiance looking for the split.
Great job by Team Allegiance being able to bounce back after that first game deficit. Oceans, though, might be in trouble. He gets bludgeoned by Scary D, but this Titan is extremely low. Just like that, Allegiance securing themselves that 1 game.